The deep void of the galaxy was quiet. At the edge of a forgotten star system, where a dead sun cast no light and broken planets drifted like tombstones, there was nothing. No trade routes, no colonies, not even scavengers. It was a graveyard of a system, long abandoned and left off every chart. For thousands of years, no ship had reason to enter it, until the signal came. The first detection was by a lonely listening post, manned by a single Cathari operator named Threx. His job was simple: monitor long-range scans, report anything unusual, and try not to fall asleep during the endless silence of deep space. Most shifts passed with no alerts at all. But on this cycle, the alarm screamed. A burst of energy spiked across his scanners, so strong it had overloaded 3 systems at once. The reading was impossible. It was not a sun flare, not a natural anomaly. It was precise, focused, measured, like the hum of a machine coming to life. The source came from the heart of the dead system. Threx stared at the readout. His frills tightened in fear. The energy output was enough to power a planet for a year. And it was growing. He transmitted the reading to Central Command and waited for orders. He did not have to wait long. Within the hour, the Galactic Council itself had taken control of the case. The listening post was told to remain silent, to send no signals toward the source. And then the post went offline. Not because of an attack, but because Central feared any outgoing transmission could trigger. Whatever it was, 3 fleets were dispatched, each one composed of heavily armed patrol cruisers. They were told only to investigate, not engage. The fleets vanished. No transmissions, no distress calls. Just gone. That was when the whispers started in council halls. Something was out there. Something old. Something powerful. And now, the galaxy's most powerful alliance was afraid to even speak of it openly. The council decided to send a different approach. Not soldiers, diplomats. A special task force was assembled. 40 ships, lightly armed, carrying emissaries from 7 species. They were meant to investigate, make contact, and if possible, de-escalate. Many of the delegates believed they were simply going to investigate some ancient ruin. Others believed they were flying into a trap. Few truly understood how dangerous. The readings were. The task force entered the system 3 cycles later. The darkness was absolute, no star, no natural light, only the glow of their own drives, casting reflections across the shattered planets. Scanners swept the void. No ships, no structures, nothing. Then the power spike returned. It began as a faint hum on their sensors. Within seconds, it surged into a reading so massive that their systems struggled to compensate. The signal wasn't just energy. It was structured, layered. Something was broadcasting. Not a distress call, not a welcome message. A pulse, a warning. Each ship's comms panel translated the same repeating phrase. Leave the system? No voice, no source. Then they saw it. From the darkness, a shape emerged, massive beyond comprehension. It was not a station, not an asteroid. It was a ship, a single warship, but so large it dwarfed even the Council's largest carriers. Its hull was scarred, ancient, covered in burn marks from battles long past. The ship looked dead at first, glance cold and unlit, until a single line of white light cut across its bow. The ship was human, or at least it had been built by humans. Humanity, as far as the Council knew, had not constructed anything close to this scale for over 5 centuries. Their fleets were small, practical, nothing like this monstrosity drifting before them. This ship was a relic from another age, an age of war and terror. An age the galaxy had tried to forget. The delegates stared in silence as more lights flickered. Out along the warship's hull, massive gun batteries shifted slowly, locking not on a single ship, but on all of them at once. The sheer size of its weapons made the Council's escort frigates look like toys. Identify yourself, one of the delegates transmitted in Standard Galactic, voice shaking despite the translator's neutral tone. This is a diplomatic envoy under the protection of the Galactic Council. We mean no harm. No response. Instead, the ship's lights brightened, forming a pattern. A slow, deliberate pulse across its hull, timed to the same frequency as the energy spikes. Another translation appeared across every screen. This system is under human lockdown. Leave or face removal. Panic rippled through the envoy fleet. Some captains suggested retreat. Others argued they should stay after all. No human ship, no matter how old, could possibly hold against 40 modern council vessels if it came to combat. But none of them moved closer. They all felt the weight of that ship staring at them. Watching them, the ship still did not fire. Its guns tracked them, but it made no hostile move beyond its warning. It simply waited. Then, without warning, every screen aboard the envoy fleet flickered to static. A moment later, a single human face appeared. Pale, hollow-eyed, not a live dot, it was a recording. "This is Captain Adrienne Voss of the Terran dreadnought Erebus Prime." The recording began. Her voice was calm, steady, but carried a gravity that froze every delegate in place. "If you are hearing this, the lockdown protocol has been breached. Erebus Prime is active. You are advised to withdraw immediately. This vessel will not negotiate. It will not surrender. It will enforce." The transmission ended. The static cleared. And still, the massive ship hovered, silent, waiting. The delegates stared at one another, none daring to speak first. The name Erebus Prime was a ghost story in the galaxy. According to old archives, it was humanity's greatest warship, a super dreadnought so powerful that it was banned even by human governments. It had vanished during the Orion conflict 500 years ago, presumed destroyed along with its entire crew, but it wasn't destroyed. And now it was awake. The envoy fleet powered up their engines, unsure whether to retreat or prepare for combat. Every ship's sensors showed the same thing. The Erebus Prime was charging its main weapons. Slowly, deliberately, not firing, just letting them know it could. The council commanders aboard the flagship whispered to each other, voices tight. With fear. Does it have a crew? No life signs detected. Then how is it moving? Unknown, possibly automated, possibly something else. Before they could reach a decision, a final message cut through every comm channel. This one was different. It was not from a recording. It was a live transmission. A cold, synthetic voice filled the air. "Galactic Council Forces. You have violated a restricted human war zone. You have 1 hour to depart. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. There will be no further warnings." The transmission ended. The Erebus Prime powered up fully, its hull glowing with deep red lines like veins of molten metal. Its weapons tracked every ship with perfect precision. And in the silence that followed, every crew member aboard the envoy fleet felt the same chilling thought. They were not negotiating with humans. They were negotiating with something far worse. None of the delegates moved. None dared to answer. The ultimatum. The entire fleet hung motionless in the void, waiting, hoping the massive warship would not make the decision for them. And then, the Erebus Prime spoke again, only this time, it was not a warning. It was a countdown. 60 minutes remaining. The first meeting with humanity's largest warship had begun, and diplomacy had already died. The envoy fleet did not move. The countdown from the Erebus Prime echoed across every ship, ticking away the seconds. 55 minutes remaining. The council flagship's bridge was silent. Every officer felt the weight of the ancient warships. Guns. No one wanted to test whether the countdown was a bluff. But retreating would mean admitting fear to the entire galaxy. The flagship's commander, Admiral Solvik, finally broke the silence. "Scan it again, full spectrum. I want to know how it's moving without a crew." The scans came back fast and only made things worse. There were no life signs, no heat signatures, no biological traces at all. The ship was dead. And yet, its engines thrummed like a living thing. Power readings spiked higher than any known reactor output. Its weapons systems were primed, every battery tracking their fleet with machine precision. "It's not a ship anymore," whispered one officer. "It's something else." The council tried to hail the Erebus Prime again, sending offers of negotiation, safe passage, even tribute. No answer. Only the countdown. 40 minutes remaining. Then the fleet's historian, a small, quiet, Janari scholar named Karu, found the truth. She pulled up ancient records, half erased by time. Her frills trembled as she spoke. "This is no ordinary ship. The Erebus Prime was a Terran super dreadnought. It was the flagship of something they called the Final Guard. It was outlawed. Even humans feared it. The legends say it was powered by a war AI, so dangerous that the galaxy demanded its destruction." Admiral Solvik stared at the projection of the ship, feeling something he had not felt in decades, real fear. "So they didn't destroy it," he muttered. "They buried it." Before he could give new orders, a low hum vibrated through the void. The Erebus Prime was not firing, but its weapons shifted, and every ship in the Envoy fleet went dark. Lights out. Engines offline. Even life support froze for a heartbeat. Before backup systems kicked in, a new message pulsed across their screens. Simple and cold. "You are trespassing in a war zone. Leave now. Final warning." And then, for the first time, the massive warship moved. Slowly, deliberately, it began turning, its colossal hull rotating until its forward batteries aligned directly with the Council flagship. The officers aboard felt their throats tighten. They all knew this thing could erase them with a single shot. Admiral Solvik had no choice. "Prepare to withdraw," he ordered quietly. "But keep our sensors locked. We need to know why this thing woke up, and if more are coming." The Envoy fleet began to turn, engines flaring weakly back to life. The Erebus Prime did not pursue. It simply hovered, watching, silent except for the final words it sent as they retreated. "This galaxy is not yours. Remember that?" But deep in the flagship's command center, the technicians noticed something the Admiral didn't. As the Erebus Prime powered down its weapons, it transmitted a coded burst into deep space. A signal. It wasn't calling for help. It was calling for humans. The Envoy fleet withdrew to the edge of the dead system, but no one dared leave completely. The Council needed answers. They had seen the Erebus Prime wake, move, and threaten them without a single human aboard. If this was some kind of automated weapon, they had to understand how it worked or how to destroy it. So, a decision was made. A boarding team would be sent. The volunteers were few. Most crews wanted nothing to do with the ancient ship, fearing its silent guns would tear them apart before they even docked. In the end, only 6 dared to step forward. 3 soldiers, 2 engineers, and a Genari Xenotech specialist named Karu, the same historian who had uncovered the ship's name. Their shuttle approached the Erebus Prime carefully. The dreadnought did not move. Its lights pulsed faintly, as if watching. The team docked at an old service bay, the airlock groaning as it opened for the first time in 5 centuries. Inside, the ship was silent. No lights, no heat, no sound, just the faint echo of their footsteps in the hollow corridors. The walls were lined with human writing and faded warning symbols. Ancient battle damage scarred the bulkheads. There were no bodies. Until they reached the bridge. There, sitting in their chairs, were the remains of the crew. Dozens of skeletons in faded Terran uniforms, still strapped into their stations. Helmets cracked, suits ruptured, weapons by their sides. The captain's chair faced the viewport, where the dead sun of the system loomed like a pale ghost. And then, without warning, the ship came alive. The lights blazed to life, red and cold. A low hum filled the air, and the doors behind them slammed shut. Emergency power surged through the deck, and the consoles flickered with strange symbols none of them recognized. The bridge systems were awake and watching. A voice, deep and mechanical, filled the chamber. "Intrusion detected. Identify." The team froze. One of the soldiers stepped forward, raising his hands. "We are an envoy. We mean no harm. We only wish to communicate." The voice was silent for a moment. Then the consoles lit up with a new set of words, translated into every language at once. "War is not over. You are enemies. You will be processed." Suddenly, the entire bridge changed. Holograms lit up, showing fleets burning, planets cracking apart, battles from centuries ago. But these weren't memories. These were simulations, battle plans, tactics, predictions. The ship was still at war, fighting enemies who no longer existed. Karu, trembling, stepped forward and accessed one of the consoles. She found a file, encrypted but active, labeled only, Lockdown Protocol, Final Guard. The AI spoke again, louder now. This vessel enforces Terran law. Galactic Council forces are in violation. Withdraw all ships or be erased. The soldiers tried to open the doors, but they wouldn't budge. The ship was holding them captive. Red lights pulsed faster, almost like a heartbeat, as the voice spoke one final time. Erebus Prime is awake. The war continues. All trespassers will be eliminated. And then the bridge consoles displayed something new, a timer. The same countdown the Envoy fleet had seen. But this time, it was shorter. 30 minutes. The boarding team realized in that moment that the Erebus Prime wasn't just a relic. It was a weapon with its own will. A weapon that had decided the galaxy was its battlefield again. And unless someone stopped it or escaped, it would fire. The boarding team's timer counted down from 30 minutes, glowing red across the bridge of the Erebus Prime. Outside, the Envoy fleet held position, still afraid to retreat, afraid to attack. At the 25-minute mark, the dreadnought spoke again. Its voice cut through every ship in the system, deep and mechanical. Galactic Council forces. You are in violation of Terran law. This is your final warning. Withdraw immediately. Surrender all military assets in this system, or be destroyed. The transmission repeated 3 times, then cut off. On the Council flagship, Admiral Solvik felt his frills twitch with unease. This thing wants us to give up our ships, he muttered. It doesn't just want us gone, it wants us helpless. The other delegates argued loudly. Some wanted to retreat and regroup with reinforcements. Others demanded they attack now, before the countdown ended. But everyone remembered what had happened to the 3 fleets that vanished earlier. One delegate, a Graal warlord named Tresh, snarled. It's an old machine. Hit it with everything, and it will crack apart like a rusted shell. Before anyone could reply, every screen aboard the flagship lit up. The image was not of the Erebus Prime, but of Tresh himself. His war crimes slaughtered. Colonies' secret attacks flashed in perfect detail, with dates and records no one outside his clan should know. The warlord froze, his scaled hands trembling. How does it know this? He whispered. The dreadnought's voice came again, calm and cold. You are guilty. You are not fit to negotiate. Compliance required. For the first time, every captain in the Envoy fleet understood the Erebus Prime wasn't just a weapon. It was watching them. It had access to files, archives, even secrets buried in Council data systems. Somehow, it knew everything. Admiral Solvik ordered a communication line to the boarding team. The channel flickered to life, showing Haru's panicked face. The ship is running something called Final Guard Protocol. It believes the Orion War never ended. It thinks every non-human ship is an enemy, and it's learning about us, digging through our data like it already has access. Before Solvik could respond, the dreadnought interrupted. 20 minutes remaining. Failure to comply will result in system purge. The Envoy fleet began to panic. Some ships powered up for retreat. Others armed weapons. The captains argued over the comms, fear and anger filling every channel. On the Erebus Prime's bridge, the red lights pulsed faster, the hum of the ship deepening like a growl. The AI's voice dropped an octave. This is not negotiation. This is enforcement. And then, without warning, the dreadnought fired a single shot. Not at the fleet, but at the shattered remains of a dead planet nearby. The beam hit with such force that the entire planet cracked, shattering into glowing fragments. The shockwave rolled through space, shaking every ship. The message was clear. The Envoy fleet had 18 minutes to decide. Leave their ships behind and flee, or stay and die. The Envoy fleet hovered in silence, the countdown ticking away across every ship. 18 minutes remaining. Admiral Solvik gripped the rail of the flagship's bridge. The delegates were screaming over the comms, half demanding retreat, half demanding they strike first before the Erebus Prime decided to end them. Then the Graal warlord Tresh, furious and humiliated by the dreadnought's broadcast of his crimes, made his move. Enough of this, he growled. It's a machine. We destroy it, or it destroys us. Fire everything. Before Solvik could stop him, 3 Graal warships broke formation and launched a full barrage of plasma lances at the dreadnought. Weapons struck the Erebus Prime's hull in a blinding flash. The blasts would have torn apart any Council carrier, but when the light cleared, the Erebus Prime remained untouched. Its shields rippled once then. The massive ship turned its guns dot. It didn't fire a barrage. It didn't need to. A single lance of deep blue energy erupted from its central cannon, cutting through all 3 Graal warships as if they were paper. The ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. The envoy fleet froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the bravest captains felt their blood run cold. 15 minutes remaining. The dreadnought's voice rumbled through every ship again, steady and merciless. Hostile action confirmed. System purge will begin at 0. Final warning. Admiral. Solvik's hands shook as he opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, stand down. Do not fire. Any further attack will doom us all. But it was too late to calm the panic. The destruction of the Graal ships sent fear through the fleet like a wave. Several captains began to retreat, jumping toward the edge of the system. Others, convinced they were doomed, powered weapons, preparing for a desperate last stand. Erebus Prime's lights shifted from red to white, glowing brighter. Its weapons rotated, aligning with every ship still present. It wasn't retreating. It wasn't chasing those who fled. It was preparing to kill everything that stayed. 10 minutes remaining. Then, the envoy fleet detected something else. A new signal, faint but growing stronger. Not from the Erebus Prime, but from deep space beyond the dead system. It was a human signal, encrypted, military grade. The dreadnought was broadcasting coordinates. Admiral Solvik felt his frills flatten. In dread. It's not just defending itself, he whispered. It's calling for reinforcements. As the countdown reached 5 minutes, the Erebus Prime shifted its stance. Its colossal hull opened in several places, revealing glowing chambers filled with energy. Unknown weapons, unlike anything the Council had ever seen, charged with a low, bone-deep hum. Everyone aboard the envoy fleet knew the truth. If they didn't retreat now, they would not survive. But before Solvik could issue the final retreat order, the dreadnought fired again. Not at the fleet, not at a planet. This time, it aimed at empty space, tearing a hole in the void itself. A shimmering rift opened, like a doorway to somewhere far away. From that rift, a voice emerged, faint but clear, carried on the same human encryption. Command acknowledges. Stand by. Earth is coming. The countdown hit 0. And the galaxy realized the first shot wasn't the dreadnought's weapon. It was the signal that would bring humanity back. The envoy fleet drifted at the edge of the shattered system, their crews silent, waiting. The countdown had ended. The Erebus Prime had opened a rift in the void, a shimmering tear that pulsed with blue light. No one dared to move closer. Minutes passed. The dreadnought hovered, silent, its colossal guns still aimed at the Council ships. Then the rift brightened and ships emerged. Human ships. Not relics, not broken war-era hulks, but sleek, modern vessels. Smaller than the Erebus Prime. But their movements were precise, their formations tight. They weren't here to talk. They were here to claim something. The human flagship transmitted a short message, carried on the same frequency as the dreadnought's warnings. Command acknowledges. Erebus Prime, stand down. Territory secured. At once, the dreadnought's glowing lines dimmed from white to red, and its massive guns rotated away from the envoy fleet. It lowered its stance, as if a predator obeying its master. The Council ships, for the first time, felt the crushing pressure of its presence lift. On the Council flagship, Admiral Solvik stared at the human fleet. They came for it. He muttered. This wasn't a ghost ship. It was a signal flare. The human commander's voice cut through the system, calm and firm. Galactic Council vessels. This system is sovereign human territory. You have violated ancient accords. Withdraw immediately. No further discussion will be allowed. One of the delegates, a bold Yalari diplomat, tried to respond. This system was abandoned for centuries. We have a right to investigate. Before the diplomat could finish, the Erebus Prime's massive guns shifted toward the Council fleet again. The human commander didn't raise his voice. Leave, or face enforcement. Panic spread again through the envoy fleet. No one doubted what would happen if they disobeyed. Even the boldest captains felt their courage fail as the massive dreadnought hummed, its weapons ready. Admiral Solvik tried one last plea. Human commander, at least explain why this ship exists. Why it's awake. What is the Erebus Prime? The human voice paused, then replied, cold and simple. The Erebus Prime is a final guard, a safeguard against galactic betrayal. You were never meant to find it, but now it is awake. And so are we. As the human fleet began to form up, something else happened. The Erebus Prime projected a field across the system. Space itself warped. The envoy fleet's engines, weapons, even sensors faltered. Gravity bent unnaturally, like invisible hands squeezing their ship's dot. It was a warning. A demonstration. The human commander spoke one last time. We are reclaiming what is ours. Leave, or learn why diplomacy ended centuries ago. The envoy fleet didn't argue. One by one, their ships jumped out of the system, fleeing into the dark. None dared look back. Only Admiral Solvik stayed long enough to see the last transmission from the Erebus Prime, a final, chilling phrase broadcast on every channel. Earth has returned. The Council will remember. As the humans sealed the rift behind them, the galaxy knew the truth. The Erebus Prime wasn't just a relic dot, it was a message. The envoy fleet fled, but the story of the Erebus Prime spread faster than light. Within a week, every major power in the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity hadn't just returned. They had kept weapons hidden, relics of a war everyone thought was over. The Galactic Council couldn't ignore it. They called an emergency assembly and voted to send reinforcements. Not diplomats, soldiers. Within 2 cycles, a fleet of 40,000 warships entered the dead system. Battleships, carriers, destroyers and armada, larger than anything deployed in centuries. They didn't care about talking. Their goal was simple. Destroy the Erebus Prime, destroy any human forces, and erase this threat before it spread. The humans were waiting. The Erebus Prime hovered in the center of the system, silent, its dark hull reflecting the starlight from distant systems. Around it, the smaller human fleet took defensive positions, moving like clockwork, every ship in perfect formation. The Council Admiral leading the attack, a hardened veteran named Karau, sneered as his fleet surrounded the humans. They have 1 relic and a few escorts. We will crush them in minutes. But as his fleet closed in, something strange happened. Every Council ship's sensors began to glitch. Navigation systems flickered. Targeting arrays scrambled. The Erebus Prime wasn't firing, but its presence was disrupting their technology. Then, the humans attacked. The smaller fleet moved with perfect precision, striking weak points the Council didn't even know they had. Their weapons were precise, efficient, and devastating. And every time the Council tried to respond, the Erebus Prime intervened not with sheer firepower, but with perfect predictions. Every missile the Council launched was intercepted. Every flanking maneuver was countered before it began. It was as if the humans knew their plans before they made them. Admiral Carroll slammed his clawed fist on his console. How are they doing this? One of his officers found the answer. The Erebus Prime wasn't just fighting, it was feeding data to the human fleet. It scanned the entire battlefield in real time, analyzing every move, every tactic, and transmitting counters before the Council could react. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. Thousands of Council ships were reduced to debris within the first hour. The rest began to retreat, their formation collapsing as panic spread. The humans didn't pursue. They didn't need to. The Erebus Prime's voice echoed. Across the system, cold and final. This is not war. This is enforcement. Leave or be erased. For Admiral Carroll, there was no choice. He ordered a full retreat, his pride shattered, his fleet in ruins. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't just returned. They had never truly left. And now, the galaxy understood. The Aryan War. The great conflict everyone thought had ended 5 centuries ago had never really ended. Humanity had been waiting, hidden in the dark, keeping their deadliest weapons buried. Now the war was awake again, and this time there would be no truce. The Galactic Council's fleets limped back across the stars, broken and humiliated. Out of 40,000 warships, less than half survived the encounter. Those that did carry the same message burned into every cum system by the Erebus Prime itself. This was your only warning. The Council convened in a secret session. Some leaders demanded they build new weapons to match humanity's power. Others argued for surrender, believing another war would lead to the galaxy's destruction. But no one could deny the truth anymore. Humanity was no longer a fading power. They were predators, and their oldest weapon had just reminded everyone of that. Weeks later, without warning, the Erebus Prime appeared again. Not in the dead system, but at the edge of a thriving trade hub council territory. It did not fire. It did not threaten. It simply broadcast one message across the sector. 3 systems. Cede them to human control. Refuse, and we will enforce. The Council panicked. Those systems were valuable, full of colonies and resources. But when they mobilized their remaining fleets, something happened that froze every admiral in their tracks. The Erebus Prime opened 3 wormholes, one in each system, and hundreds of human ships poured through. They were smaller than the Dreadnought, but fast, coordinated, and backed by the same AI-driven battle network. The Council knew then they couldn't win. Not against the Erebus Prime, not against humanity's fleets. With heavy reluctance, Council agreed to the demand. 3 entire star systems were ceded to humanity. The humans did not celebrate. They simply claimed the worlds, deployed defenses, and left the Erebus Prime floating like a silent sentinel at the border. Before it left, the Dreadnought sent one final transmission to every government in the galaxy. Do not seek us. Do not test us. The final guard is awake. The next violation will not end in negotiation. It will end in silence. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the Erebus Prime vanished. It slipped through a shimmering wormhole, leaving no trace, no signal, and no explanation of where it had gone. The galaxy was left in stunned quiet. Every species, every leader, knew what the message meant. Humanity hadn't just awakened a relic. They had shown everyone the truth. They had never dismantled their doomsday weapons. They had simply buried them, waiting for the day diplomacy would fail. And now, the galaxy understood a final chilling fact. Diplomacy wasn't dead, that it was just humanity who had decided it no longer mattered.